Former New York City rapper who was awaiting sentencing on federal drug charges got slashed in a vicious altercation with another inmate.
Brooklyn's very own Casanova drops a bomb from behind bars. He wrote a letter that has raised more questions than it has answered. Is it a desperate plea, a powerful statement, or a sign that he's cracking under pressure?
You go to the feds for Rico, and they offer you 20 years and you're a millionaire. You're telling.
Join us as we investigate the meaning behind Casanova's words and how he got here. The disturbing message. In his letter to the judge, Casanova took full responsibility for his mistakes, straight up admitting he messed up. But he also explained he never had anyone to show him a better path, so he had to learn how to survive the streets by himself. He also brought up how he's been working with young people in the streets over the last few years and trying to lead them down a better path so they don't end up like he did. Casanova also said he had to act the part, but all he wanted to do was end it all. This wasn't the first time that his suicidal thoughts had been brought up to the judge. Back in 2022, when he pleaded guilty, CAs told the judge that he had been put on suicide watch a few days before and explained that he had attempted to take his own life a couple of times when he was a teenager. It sounds like he's been trying to get away from the street life for a long time, which is evident in his words. I am telling you and anyone that will listen that I wanted out before I was arrested, and I am out. When he was finally released from prison in 2014, CAs knew he had to switch up how he moved.
He actually linked up with A$AP Rocky while they were cellmates together on Rikers Island. And in 2016, Cass hopped in the booth and started dropping tracks.
His first single, Don't Run, had his name buzzing in the city. And a few months later, he signed a deal with Memphis Bleak on his Warehouse Music Group label under Roc Nation. Next, he dropped an EP in 2018 and his debut album in 2019. And that's when Casanova realized he could make a difference through his music. In the letter, he said, I learned through my music career that people will listen and that I don't need to associate myself with a gang to succeed. I don't need to associate with a gang even if I don't succeed. But even though he was trying to make a change, CAs admits that he kept pushing the gangster image to promote his career. In the RICO indictment, they accused him of being a high-ranking member of the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation and calling the shots. But CAs wrote, I don't care what the government tells you. I am telling you the truth. I was not involved in the daily activities of this gang. I wasn't anyone's boss. CAs wanted out, but he let the gang use his name for promotion. And he said, what I was, and I regret this was a person that they could use to promote themselves in a world I swear to you, I was trying to leave. Casanova's arrest. In a stunning development that has left the music world reeling, Casanova, the Brooklyn rapper who once dominated the charts with his gritty anthems, has been dealt a severe blow by the hands of justice. The artist has found himself in the grips of a federal crackdown as he faced charges under the Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, commonly known as RICO. The RICO Act is a federal law designed to combat organized crime in the United States. It allows prosecution and civil penalties for racketeering activity performed as part of an ongoing criminal enterprise. This law has been historically used to dismantle mafia organizations, but in recent years, it has also been applied to various criminal groups, including street gangs and, in Casanova's case, alleged involvement with the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation gang. Casanova's arrest on RICO charges came as a result of a sweeping indictment that targeted members of the gang. The charges were serious and extensive, including conspiracy to commit racketeering, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, and possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime. The indictment painted a picture of an organization steeped in illegal activities, with Casanova at the center of the allegations. The rapper's legal troubles began to unfold in late 2020 when federal authorities announced the indictment. Casanova was among 18 alleged members of the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation gang charged in connection with the RICO case. The indictment accused the gang of crimes ranging from drug trafficking to assaults, and even implicated them in aiding and abetting the murder of a 15-year-old. Casanova, who had previously served time in prison before his rise to fame, was accused of playing a pivotal role in the gang's criminal enterprise. The prosecution alleged that his music and public persona were a cover for his involvement in the gang's illicit activities. They claimed that he used his influence to recruit members for the gang, and his music videos and lyrics were scrutinized for evidence of this. The rapper turned himself in to federal authorities in December 2020 after a nationwide manhunt was declared. His surrender was as dramatic as his persona, with the rapper maintaining his innocence and declaring that he was targeted because of his past in music. As the case progressed, the evidence presented by the prosecution included wiretapped conversations, text messages, and social media posts. The authorities claimed that these pieces of evidence demonstrated Casanova's involvement in the drug trade and his connection to violent activities carried out by the gang. As the trial unfolded, the rapper's fans and the public watched as the man who had once rapped about overcoming adversity in street life was now facing the possibility of a lengthy prison sentence. The severity of the sentence underscored the serious nature of the charges he faced and the government's commitment to using RICO statutes to prosecute individuals they believe are involved in organized crime, gang relations. Casanova's story is a cautionary tale of how quickly fortunes can change, especially when the law comes knocking. From crafting rap lyrics that got him noticed to writing letters begging the court for mercy. Talk about a fall from grace. This whole situation shows how quickly things can go south when you get mixed up in trouble. Casanova has been caught in the web of the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation, a gang that has left a trail of violence and illicit activities across the United States. The Gorilla Stone Nation, deeply rooted in the streets of New York, is not just any gang. It is an organization that operates with a strict code and is notorious for its commitment to violence. Casanova's involvement with this gang has led to a significant prison sentence, highlighting the severe consequences of such dangerous liaisons. The Gorilla Stone Nation's reputation for violence is well documented, with its members often engaging in drug trafficking among other criminal activities. The gang's influence stretches far beyond the borders of New York, with members scattered across the country, including a strong presence within the New York State prison system. The gang is structured into various sets, or caves as they refer to them, each operating under the same banner of brutality and lawlessness. Casanova's connection to the Gorilla Stone Nation has been a costly one. His affiliation with the gang has resulted in a 15-year sentence for charges that include racketeering and drug trafficking. The Gorilla Stone Nation's criminal activities are not limited to drug trafficking. The gang has been involved in a wide range of crimes, including murder. A chilling example of their ruthlessness was the murder of a 15-year-old boy, Jelani Jones, who was shot in the head by a teenage gang member following orders from a higher-up within the gang. This heinous act was carried out in broad daylight, with small children witnessing the atrocity. The gang's leader, Brandon Soto, known as Stax, was sentenced to 35 years in prison for his role in the murder and other offenses. Soto's leadership in the gang was marked by violence and a blatant disregard for human life. He was known for his access to firearms and for directing members to commit retaliatory acts of violence, the most significant of which was the murder of Jelani Jones. Soto's actions following the murder further exemplify the Gorilla Stone Nation's commitment to violence. In an attempt to evade law enforcement, Soto took numerous steps to cover up the crime, including setting fire to the vehicle used in the murder and ordering the deletion of social media accounts associated with those involved. The gang's violent tendencies are not just directed at rivals, but also at those within their own community who do not align with their ideology. Soto himself violently attacked an individual, beating him unconscious while proclaiming, "You're not a gorilla." The untouchable Gorilla Gang has terrorized people for way too long, and eventually karma came knocking. Now all those gang members, including Casanova, are facing some serious jail time. The justice system doesn't mess around with gangs. These people have a whole code built around violence, and they're paying the price. It's a shame the Gorilla Stone Nation messed up so many communities, but at least their reign of terror is over. Hopefully these long sentences will send a message that gang life ain't worth it. Casanova's trial and sentencing. Initially pleading not guilty, Casanova later accepted a plea deal, confessing to involvement in a 2020 shooting, a 2018 robbery, and the distribution of a substantial quantity of marijuana. Taking the plea deal was something Casanova pointed out in an interview.
I'm talking about all these rappers and all these fake gangsters, man. You go to the feds for RICO, and they offer you 20 years and you're a millionaire. You're telling.
Imagine spending 30 years in prison for someone you barely know. That's a rough deal. No wonder Casanova took the plea bargain. No wonder he snitched to avoid that kind of sentence. Allegedly, even with a plea deal on the table, Casanova's still looking at 6 decades behind bars. In a recent letter to the judge, he spoke of renouncing his life of crime. He acknowledged his past actions, but lamented the lack of guidance that led him to learn survival on the streets alone. He also highlighted his efforts to steer young people away from a life of crime. Casanova's journey began in the the Flatbush area of Brooklyn, where he immersed himself in street life as a teenager, eventually dropping out of school in the 8th grade. His criminal activities soon caught up with him, resulting in a robbery charge at 19 and an almost 8-year prison sentence. During his incarceration, Casanova admitted to engaging in numerous violent encounters to survive. In his correspondence with the judge, Casanova expressed a desire to end his association with gang life, a sentiment he had previously conveyed during his guilty plea in 2022. He revealed past suicidal thoughts and attempts, underscoring his long-standing wish to escape the criminal world. However, the indictment painted a different picture, alleging Casanova's high-ranking role in the gang. In his letter, he refuted these claims and regretted allowing his name to be used for gang promotion. He also revisited the 2018 robbery incident, clarifying his impulsive actions and denying any intent to harm. The evidence against Casanova was substantial, including recorded jail calls discussing his possession of firearms and concerns about his behavior impacting his music career. He also acknowledged his part in a shooting at a party in July 2020, which escalated from a gambling dispute to a violent altercation. The charges against him were severe, including racketeering, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, and possession of a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime. These allegations stem from his purported involvement with the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation gang, an accusation that paints a grim picture of the intersection between music and criminal activity. The trial itself was a spectacle, with testimonies that painted a vivid picture of the life Casanova was allegedly leading outside of his music career. Prosecutors presented evidence that suggested the rapper's involvement in criminal activities was not just for show in his lyrics, but was a reality that had serious consequences. The evidence included wiretapped conversations, text messages, and testimonies from cooperating witnesses, all of which contributed to the gravity of the case against him. The sentencing phase was equally dramatic, with the defense arguing for leniency based on Casanova's difficult upbringing and his positive contributions to the community, including charitable work and youth outreach. However, the prosecution's argument that Casanova played a significant role in the gang's criminal endeavors ultimately swayed the judge's decision. The message that resonated from the courtroom was clear: involvement in gang activity, no matter one's status or fame, carries a heavy price. Attacked in prison. The details of Casanova's daily life in the Newark, New Jersey facility are shrouded in secrecy, with prison officials tight-lipped about the goings-on within their walls. Yet, through snippets from news reports and his lawyer's statements, a picture emerges of a man at a crossroads, grappling with the consequences of his past, and a brutal assault that underscores the perils of his environment. Casanova's life in prison is likely dictated by a strict routine, with every moment scheduled and monitored. The freedom he once knew was replaced by the regimented existence of an inmate. Despite the lack of detailed information, it's understood that prison life in America typically involves controlled movement, scheduled meals, and limited social interactions, all within the confines of the facility's walls. In June 2023, Casanova reached a turning point. His lawyer revealed that the rapper had publicly renounced his ties to the gang that had been part of his identity. But this moment of vulnerability was met with violence.
After a former New York City rapper who was awaiting sentencing on federal drug charges got slashed in a vicious altercation with another inmate.
June 16th, or shortly thereafter, Casanova was attacked by fellow inmate Ulysses Lugo. The assault, carried out with a makeshift blade, left Casanova with severe facial injuries. In a bloody confrontation that unfolded in the common area of the jail, Casanova fought back, sustaining defensive wounds before Lugo was subdued, his face bearing the marks of the altercation. The motives behind the attack are unclear, with speculation rife. Some suggest it was a direct response to Casanova's rejection of the gang, while others whisper of revenge for rumored cooperation with authority. The timing of the attack, so closely following his letter to the judge, paints a grim picture of the potential consequences of turning one's back on gang affiliations within the prison system. Casanova's legal battle is far from over. His lawyer has argued that the attack should be considered in his sentencing, highlighting the ongoing risks he faces. The incident has sparked broader discussions on prison safety and the need for protective measures for inmates severing gang ties. The aftermath of the attack remains largely unknown, with no public disclosure of Casanova's condition or any punitive measures against Lugo. What is clear, however, is the stark reminder of the dangers that lurk within the prison system, especially for those entangled in gang dynamics. Casanova's journey from the streets of Brooklyn to the music industry, and now to the confines of a prison cell, is a cautionary tale. His rise to fame with his debut single Don't Run, and subsequent record deal offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to use his voice for positive change. Yet, the indictment and his own admissions paint a picture of a man still haunted by his past, struggling to break free from the shadows of his former life. Despite his efforts to reform, Casanova was handed a 15-year sentence on June 27. The prosecution's portrayal of his significant role in the gang's operations weighed heavily, and while the sentence fell short of the maximum, it remains a daunting hurdle. Criminal history. Casanova has always had run-ins with the law. In 1986, his life in the streets of Brooklyn was marked by adversity from the start. By the tender age of 18, he was already behind bars in the infamous Rikers Island, though the reasons for his incarceration at that time are shrouded in mystery. Things take a turn for the worst when Casanova is to Rikers. In there, he's said to have joined hands with the untouchable guerrilla Stone Nation, a notorious subset of the Bloods gang. Not exactly the company you want to keep if you're trying to stay on the straight and narrow. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, whispers in the corridors of justice and the media painted him as a prominent figure within this feared group. Upon his release in 2013, the saga didn't end. Casanova's name would be synonymous with a litany of criminal activities for over a decade. Federal indictments accused him of conspiring to distribute narcotics, with over 100 kilograms of marijuana at the center of the allegations. His rap sheet also included admissions of involvement in violent crimes, including a shooting in Florida in 2020 and a robbery in New York City in 2018, all under the umbrella of a racketeering conspiracy. Moreover, he was purported to have climbed the ranks to become a key player in the guerrilla Stone Nation, orchestrating criminal endeavors with a number of accomplices. Despite the gravity of these accusations, it's crucial to note that Casanova has never been legally proven to be a gang member, and much of his supposed criminal life stems from unverified charges. It was also due to the fact that his mother would always bail him out. His music, which often mirrors the harsh realities of street life, further blurs the line between fiction and his alleged criminal past. Casanova's music career, which skyrocketed in the mid-2010s with the backing of Rock Nation and a series of hit mixtapes, was constantly overshadowed by his legal woes. In 2016, he faced weapons charges, but these were eventually dismissed. The year 2020 marked a pivotal chapter in Casanova's life story. He was apprehended on federal racketeering charges, along with 17 others purportedly linked to the guerrilla Stone Nation. The indictment was a laundry list of crimes ranging from drug trafficking to murder, halting his music career abruptly. In a twist worthy of a Hollywood movie, Casanova made a bold move while awaiting trial in June 2023. He submitted a letter to the court through his attorney, renouncing his ties to the guerrilla Stone Nation and expressing regret for his past. This act of contrition, however, raised eyebrows. Was it a sincere bid for redemption or a calculated ploy to sway his sentencing? Imagine a life tangled up in music, ambition, and let's be honest, some shady dealings. That's Casanova in a nutshell. The accusations against him paint a picture of a guy knee-deep in gang stuff, but how deep exactly is anyone's guess? Now he's saying he's done with that life, but who knows why or if it'll stick. This whole situation dragging on in court like a bad cold is a wake-up call. It shows how tempting gang life can be, but also how messy things can get. Impact on public perception. Casanova's legal woes became public in 2020 when he faced RICO charges. The indictment alleged his involvement with the guerrilla Stone Nation, painting a grim picture of drug trafficking, robbery, and violence. This narrative clashed with his public persona as a rapper who had risen above the adversities of street life, his lyrics echoing tales of resilience. Yet the charges suggested a darker reality, blurring the lines between his music and alleged criminal activities. The trial peeled back layers of Casanova's life, revealing a complex figure. Prosecutors depicted him as a pivotal member of the gang, while the defense painted a picture of a man shaped by a difficult past, striving to leave gang life behind, as evidenced by his public renunciation of gang ties in 2023. Public reaction to the trial and sentencing was deeply divided. Loyal fans saw Casanova as a symbol of authenticity, his music reflecting life experiences rather than an endorsement of crime. They pointed to systemic issues and the enticements of gang culture, underscoring the challenges of breaking free. In contrast, others felt disillusioned, believing his music glorified gang violence, exacerbating societal issues. The trial details reinforced this view, leading to calls for accountability and a stricter sentence. The media played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative around Casanova's case. Extensive coverage, coupled with analysis and commentary, influenced public opinion. The tension between artistic expression and its potential to glorify criminality became a focal point of discussion. Casanova's music career has suffered due to his legal situation. His arrest and the trial halted his musical output, and the sentence imposed will likely have a lasting effect on his ability to produce and promote new music. The 15-year sentence raises questions about the future of his career and the possibility of a comeback. As Casanova begins his sentence, the hip-hop community and the public are left to grapple with the implications of his fall from grace. The impact on public perception is significant, with the rapper's story serving as a reminder of the thin line between storytelling and complicity in the acts depicted. The long-term effects on Casanova's legacy, his music, and the hip-hop genre as a whole remain to be seen, but the reverberations of his sentencing will be felt for years to come. Casanova's sentencing for federal racketeering charges drew a definitive line under his legal saga, intertwining his music career with accusations of gang affiliation. The sentence, along with the trial details, significantly impacted public perception of the rapper. Before the sentencing, Casanova's image was one of a rapper with a shadow. His music, filled with bravado and street life references, created a persona of toughness. Yet the 2020 RICO charges, alleging his involvement in criminal activities with the Gorilla Stone Nation, further tarnished his image. The trial unveiled a different narrative. Prosecutors presented Casanova as a high-ranking gang member, while the defense highlighted his troubled past and attempts to escape the cycle of gang life, including his 2023 public renunciation of gang affiliation. The public's reaction was split. Some fans stood by Casanova, seeing him as a victim of circumstance, with his music reflecting his experiences. Others felt disillusioned, viewing him as glorifying gang violence, with the trial's revelations, if true, solidifying this perception. Calls for accountability and a harsher sentence echoed among this audience. The sentencing undoubtedly impacted Casanova's music career. His 2020 arrest paused his work, and the legal case likely hampered his ability to create and promote new music. The trial's outcome, particularly the sentence length, will determine his career trajectory. Casanova's story is a cautionary tale, highlighting the consequences of gang involvement and the challenges of separating art from reality. Questions linger about his ability to rebuild his public image, the influence of his experiences on his future music, and whether his case will spark a broader conversation about gang culture and rehabilitation. Casanova's sentencing marks a significant moment, but it's not the end of the story. The long-term impact on public perception will depend on how he navigates his future, the music he creates, and the conversations his story ignites. If you like videos like these, click on the one being recommended to you right now.